Welcome back to Leadership with Lisa. So, this is a big one to me because in the retail management, the biggest issue that I find with my peers is that when people call out, they tend to have to work, right? Because if you can't find somebody to cover that shift, you're going to have to come back to work or maybe work an extended shift or work when your days off are. Well, I have constructed a schedule that will keep you out of working an extra shift that's not yours almost consistently. It's pretty much foolproof. It has been for me. It might be the crew that I'm working with that makes it so foolproof, but other managers have implemented it and has had really good success. So I call it stacking your schedule. All right, I'm going to give you two examples. I'm going to give you one with 190 hours, not including the manager's hours. These are hours that typically a company will give you, and typically they don't put your hours in there. Some companies do, so take that into consideration. And then the next one's going to be 130 hours without your hours. So it's kind of like two different volume stores. So I will do both for you. I will walk you through it. And hopefully you'll get something from this because to me, this is huge. This is something that is super important to all of the retail managers I know and struggle with the call outs. All right. So first of all, you're going to take your schedule. Well, I'm going to make up a schedule right here, right? All right. I'm going to do the 190 hours first, okay? And then we'll do the 130 hours and just kind of like give you exactly what's happening here. Boom. Well, I am going to put the manager's hours on here, even though the manager's hours aren't going to count towards the 190, just so you can visually see exactly what I'm doing. All right, so this is going to be Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, right, write down the week, Wednesday. My writing, I will clear it up as we go along so you can read it. Thursday, and then Friday and Saturday. Okay, there's all your weeks. Here's your names, okay? I'm going to put manager. I'm going to put assistant right here. And obviously, you can tailor this to what you're working. I'm coming from the C-store mindset, so we don't work weekends. But I have worked clothing and stuff, and I know that managers do work weekends. So you can kind of maneuver this to make sense for you and your team. I'm going to put employee 1, employee 2, employee 3, 4, and 5. All right, so in this scenario, you have 6 employees, okay? With 190 hours given to you, you're going to probably need that many people. All right, so my manager is going to have off Sunday, Monday, or Saturday. I'm obviously going to choose X's so you can see that, what is happening here, a little bit more clearer, okay? And so in this instance, my manager is going to work 5 to 3. Only because, once again, I'm going with a C-store mindset that our managers work 50. But this doesn't really matter, right? Because this right here isn't going to be calculated into your 190 hours. Now, your assistant, she's going to work your weekends, right? And these are 5 a.m., obviously, to 1 p.m. This is based on a store that's not open 24 hours. Again, this can be tailored to you. If you have a situation where you can't wrap your head around exactly what's happening here, and you want to implement it, send me your hours and how many people you have, and I can advise one up for you. To me, this is a must, is doing this with your schedule. All right, now At 190 hours, I'm going to have an 8 o'clock person to 2 o'clock person. Okay, wait. I'm not going to do that to my assistant. Sorry, guys. Because my assistant is going to be on at night. My employee 1, okay? Now, honestly, like I said, we can do this any which way. This person doesn't have to be, I'm going to put him on the weekends, and boom. Okay. This person's going to have off Sunday, Friday, and then I'm going to do a third person here. This person's going to do 11 to 7. We'll give him off Saturday and Sunday. And then we're going to have a 1 to 9. And we're going to do this one like this. And this person's going to have about this one. And then we're going to have a 6 to 11. Which you need every night of the week, including Sundays. So this person's going to be 6 to, or actually, this person's going to be 5 to 11. And put them on here, 6 to 11, 6 to 11. And this person's going to do 6 to 11, 6 to 11, 6 to 11, 6 to 11. All right, so, and then I didn't put anything else for my manager, which we have to put my manager on better. Here, let's put this one on 8 to 5. Actually, let's put this one on 9 to 5, right? Okay, 9 to 5, 5 to 11, assistant, this person's got this day off, and this person's got this and this day off. 8, 11, 1 to 9, 1 to 9, oops, there's a 1 to 9 there, we're 8 to 11, 1, 8, 11, 1, 8, 11, 1, 9, 6, where's my 6? My 6 is there, I got 6 over there, 1, 8, so I need 11 to 7 here. Which I'm going to take this guy, put him over here, give him the 11 to 7 here, give him off here, put my assistant on here. So let's make sure I have it all, right? So I've got an opener, mid, down, close, mid, down, opener. Oh, where's my, I don't have an 8 o'clock here. So, well, now what am I going to do? I'm actually just, I mean, obviously I'm doing this kind of on the fly, but if you watch what I'm doing, you know, this is the way I would do my schedules. I would look at it all and I would determine where I can take people off and put them on to cover my shifts. Okay, so here's 5, 11, 1, 9, and here's my 8, but my assistant doesn't have enough hours, so I'm going to give employee 1 another day off and give my assistant 2 8 to 2s here. Since she's going to be opening there, so I don't want to burn her out. Okay, looks pretty solid, right? You got all your shifts, okay? A lot of things that I do when I do my schedule, I also make sure that I have closers. So I'll go through and I'll be like, okay, I'm good. Somebody's closing my store every single night. And then what I'm doing is I'm making sure that I have somebody on during the day with me. Okay, you know, 11 to 7s. Is there enough 11 to 7s? Oh, this guy right here, look how many hours he's got. He's got a crap ton of hours, right? He's got one more day than he needs. So, this guy right here, Dude Man, does not. So, I'm going to do this. I'm going to give this guy off here and do 11 to 7 here. I got 1 to 9s on every single day, except for Sunday, because Sunday's a skeleton crew. And then I got my 6 to 11s. All right, so that looks pretty solid to me. I hope you guys can see it. It's all in there. So let me tell you how this exactly works, okay? You got yourself on 5 to 3, okay? And then you got your second person on. This is 190 hours, not including the managers. Let's keep that in mind as we look at this. Let's put an X here so you can clearly see the people's days off, okay? So let's say 8 to 2 guy calls out, okay? 8 to 2 guy calls out. I'm just going to put a slash that he called out, okay? I have the option, what I can do is I can take 11 to 7 guy, call him up, get him to work, let's say an 8 to 5 shift instead of 11 to 7 shift, and ask my night person to do a 4 to 11, because night person is only at 5 hours there. So now I've given them 6 hours, right? And then he's working 8 to 5. Nothing really changes. The only thing changes is really my to-do list, which we'll talk about on another one of these, on exactly how to do a to-do list that is divvied out throughout, and we'll talk about that later. Anyway, we're concentrating today only on the schedule. So 8 to 2 calls out, 11 to 7 works 8 to 5, and the 6 to 11 works 4 to 11. Honestly, people typically will come in. It's a rare occasion that you get a no on that. Okay. Usually people will work those. Okay, so now let's say that's not a problem anymore. Okay, so 8 to 2 is coming in, whatever. All right, let's go with the next one, right? Let's say your 11 to 7 calls out. 11 to 7 calls out. What do you do? Well, pretty simple thing here too. And this won't ruin your day at all. 8 to 2. Okay, can you stay till 3? 8 to 3. Maybe he can stay till 3. If not, you're there till 3. So it's really not going to make too much of a difference. But then you can have your 6 to 11 come in 3 to 11. Again, no overtime. Okay? And guess what? Dude man up here, manager boy, he or she's not working an extra hour, really. I mean, that's what's happening, right? You could even get, if this guy can't come in till 4, you can ask this guy to stay till 4, and he can come in at 4. And again, you're not going to be, it doesn't affect you. All right, so now your schedule's back together. Now let's say your 1 to 9 calls out. Okay? Same situation, really. You could do an 8 to 3 here or an 8 to 4 and bring this guy down to a 3 to close right there. All right, now, last but not least, you have your closer calling out. The closer calls out, right? This guy right here calls out. What do you do? Pretty simple. Okay, now, 11 to 7 guy, or I'm sorry, 1 to 9 guy, you can bring him in at 3 to 11, or if you're not opposed to overtime, or if you can cut them down the line or something, you can always do a 1 to 11. A lot of times they'll stay for a couple extra hours, and just ask the 11 to 7 guy to stay for an extra hour, or change him to 12 to 8 if you're trying to save your thing. Again, the adjustments in a lot of these, your people typically won't push back on it because people typically do work together. Worst case scenario, you can pull people in on your days off, whatever. Everybody's done those things, but this right here will solve a lot of problems with when people call out and just so that is at 190 hours. Okay, so my next one I'm going to do is with 130 hours. Just to kind of show you the difference in scale, but you still can do it. Okay, I was in a 190 hour store, again, not counting my hours, and that was a tried and true that I've done. I've literally have trained managers that have been in the business for 30 years and have been amazed by the way this whole thing works and has utilized it themselves. All right, 130 hours. Let's see what we got here, okay? This is a little smaller scale. You're in a smaller store. You tend to work extra hours because people tend to call out, right? Or whatever the case may be, whatever your dynamic is. And so I am going to, obviously you're going to have less people. And less hours to work with. So we got Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. I find this to have been a very big, I wrote notes down so I don't forget. Since this wasn't my, I have done this because I have ran a smaller store, but it's been a while. So I want to just make sure that, I remember how to do it. So I kind of wrote it down prior so I could show you guys. I don't know how many employees you have. Employee 3. Maybe there's a 4 and 5. We'll keep going. Hold on. Yes, I think there has to be at least a 4th one. Employee 4. We're gonna put employee 1. I'm gonna put them as your assistant. Again, we'll go with the C-store model just because I'm freshly from that. I have 30 years experience in just doing, honestly, in mastering this stuff. You're talking to somebody who has failed and then has figured it out. And I think that is the best teaching you can have, is to fail in life and have to pick yourself back up and figure it out. And we've all been there, or at least if you're not, if you're over the age of, probably 1 at this point, everybody's been there, right? Even in school, we've had fails and things. Anyway, my point being is that I've dialed it in so much because this has been such a big deal in the industry where managers are just, they are working their butts off to 5 to 1 because people are calling out on them and things like that, and it becomes a pretty miserable gig if that's where you're at. So this solves a lot. Okay, so let's go with employee number 1, right? I'm gonna put employee number 1 on 8 to 2, 8 to 2, 8 to 2, 8 to 2, 8 to 2. Let's just do that, right? And then we're going to have a 1 to 7. Oops, it says 9. I meant 7. Whoops. 1 to 7, 1 to 7, 1 to 7, 1 to 7. Off. Don't forget my X's indicate you have off, and then you have a employee that is 5 to 11, did I put? Yeah, 5 to 11, and this is 11 o'clock. Of course, your hours are probably not going to match up as, like this, or whatever. And I do need another employee. 5 to 11, maybe. I didn't give assistant manager any more hours, so maybe I don't need this employee. But I do need 2 closers, right? You're going to need 2 closers. And then this day right here, I'm just going to do a 9. Actually, this day right here, because it's a slow store, we're going to do a 1. Oh, a 1 to 5 and a 4 to 11. Let's just do that. All right. So there's only an hour overlay for like those incidental chores that you have on Sunday. Sunday tends to be a very, very slow day in this industry. Again, different industries. If you're in a situation where you're covering people's shifts because they're calling out, this is going to be for you 100%. Okay, so let's do. I like my assistant managers for the most part. I like to be able to talk to them and for them to talk to my night person. So I do like the 1 to 9s or the 1 to 7s or whatever. So this is obviously not a double covered store. That's a huge, thing. This is not a double covered store. So, I'm going to put this guy over here. So this guy right here is super part-time guy, right? We have him. Your assistant, Thursday, Friday off. I always like to give the assistant Thursday, Friday off if I can. I don't think I did to the last one, but that's usually my gig. and then all these days off. So you've got a few part-time people here to, and do you need, maybe you don't need an extra person, maybe you'll only need, up to here after all, just because you could give this guy a couple nights or whatever. This is just to show you exactly what you can do. Honestly, yes, it can be done on fewer people, but let's talk about this, okay? So, here we have your assistant. Okay, so here we have this. Okay, so let's go on Monday. Okay, so Monday, this is your gig, right? You don't have anybody until 1 o'clock. You're a single store, single coverage store, and you have only 130 hours. So that being said, this dude, man, we don't have an 8 to 2 here. So let's put the 8 to 2 in, right? All right. Now, so the fact that I have, my hours are 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. Okay. Again, C-store mentality here. So if your assistant manager calls out on the weekends, you're probably opening till 8. I can't solve that. I can't solve paperwork like that in the morning because you have one assistant. It is what it is. But you don't have to work till 1 usually. You can usually pull this guy in or whatever. Or just have it worked out like that because Saturday and Sundays are not busy. But again, we can tailor this to any day of the week. We can do it. But here you got your 5 to 3, your 8 to 2, right? Your 1 to 7, and your 5 to 11. Same concept. 8 to 2 calls out, right? Your 8 to 2 calls out. What do? You can, one, you really don't have to do anything in this situation unless you absolutely need that 8 o'clock person. Then you can pull this person in, let's say 11 to 7. And you're going to have to just do it till 11 o'clock by yourself. Which isn't, it is, in a store of this caliber where you're only getting that many hours, chances are it's really not going to be that big of a deal that you're there for a couple hours by yourself. And I would rather that problem be left on me than left on my night person. So, but you got the same kind of thing going on. Okay, so let's say 5 to 11 dude calls out, right? Ask this guy, can you work 3 to 11 instead of 1 to 7? And then boost this guy up to maybe 8 to 4. So you have an hour layover to kind of help him out. Or ask this guy if he can do 11 to 7 if you need that extra coverage in the evening more than you do in the morning. You're kind of playing with people's schedules at this point, and you do have to ask them if they can do it. You can't just assume, that they will. I think it's pretty important to be respectful of that. But again, when somebody's already on their calendar here, already on your thing, they're going to be more apt to say yes. So you got this guy on 3 to 11, this guy on 8 to 4, and this guy calls out. Okay, so now let's say 1 to 7 calls out, right? Well, I don't think we did that scenario yet. So 1 to 7 called out, and you just pretty much ask this guy, can you, I would probably work this guy at this point 9 to 5 to get that double coverage, or 10 or even 10 to 6, and then bring this guy in 4 to 11. So I have that overage to get some chores done and things like that. Depending upon the day though, you may not even have to do it to that drastic. You might be able to do the 9 to 5 and even have him come in 5 to 11 if you wanted to, and not have that nightly duty done because it's a Monday or something. But that kind of gives you a wrap up of the slower store. Doesn't work as well as the double covered stores because you have a more of a layered aspect. But even with this aspect, the 5 to 3, the 1 to 7, the 8 to 2, and the 5 to 11, this will save your butt more times than I can count. I did work a slower store, and I did do something in that effect, and it did work out really well for me. And that's kind of how I came up with it, is out of desperation where people were calling out and I found myself working. I had to come up with something. And that has worked for me beautifully. And I hope it works for you too. Thank you.